Here's what most people don't realize about North Idaho. It's not just another pretty mountain town where you struggle to make ends meet. In fact, I've watched hundreds of families move here, relocate here successfully, but actually improve their quality of life in ways they never expected. But there's a catch. Thriving here requires knowing some insider secrets that most newcomers completely miss. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about if you can actually thrive in North Idaho. Hey, I'm Reed with Revealing North Idaho, and if you're looking to get more information about the North Idaho area, considering on moving here or relocating and trying to figure out more of what's happening up here in this North Idaho area, you're in the right place. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell so you can be notified every time I talk about anything going on up here in the North Idaho area, and you can get a better understanding of what's happening here in North Idaho. Today, like I said, we are going to talk about if you can actually thrive in North Idaho. Think of this as maybe a little bit of compatibility test. We're going to talk about some of the things that most struggle with, or some of the things that maybe you haven't been told before you move here. Number one on my list is going to be climate tolerance. You know, if you're going to live here, you're going to experience all 4 seasons. Well, I like to say you're going to experience all 6 seasons. We are actually here at the end in this fall time where this is the time of year, to be honest, I do not like the most. It's true, we're on Pacific time here, so our time, even in the summer, we don't get as long of days as you would, say, mountain time. So when I go down into middle Idaho, some of those areas, I notice that we have a little more daylight on that end. On our end, the sun comes up a little earlier. So if you like the sun coming up in the summer around 4:30 and going down around that 8 to 9 area, then this will work for you. But in the winter, let's be real. This time of year, the days are getting shorter. And so it starts, especially after we get past daylight savings time here, we're going to start seeing you're going to get up and it's dark. And when you come home from work, it's going to be dark. So you're going to have that area from around 7 to 8 where it's getting light, and then around 4 o'clock it's starting to get dark again. So winters, depending on where we're at in the winter, can feel very short, but we're in that period of the fall that I just do not like. It's getting cold, it's getting dark, and we're going to start seeing a lot of rain, and to me it's just depressing and muggy. That's why I say we've got 6 seasons. The early fall is really kind of beautiful and it's nice, but that late fall gets kind of ugly for me, and that early spring is messy and cold and rainy, and I don't really care for that, but I love the late spring because it's beautiful. And of course, summer's here, warm and dry. They are ideal for outdoor activities. Winters, cold with some significant snow. Be prepared because we do get some freezing temperatures here and snow-covered roads. So experience all 4 seasons. You gotta love 4 seasons. If you're not a winter person, it's going to feel a little long to you, and you may not like that. So anyway, something to keep in mind. The next one on my list, community vibe. This area is known for a very strong sense of community, tight-knit, small-town feel, friendly, but can be reserved. It's not uncommon for somebody to spark a conversation at the coffee shop or in the, grocery line. But in a lot of these areas, it takes time to build some trust. The culture here is described as conservative with conservative values, self-sufficiency, but kindness. I feel that people here are always extremely kind in most cases. Anytime you run into somebody out on the trail, they're always, saying hi, or while you're out walking, people are waving and saying hi. People typically let you into traffic. It's a different feel than when I go to some of these bigger cities and people are very closed up. But just know that people do have those conservative values. It is a more conservative area with those political standings, and unfortunately a lot of locals are becoming wary of the rapid population growth, and that has caused some pushback because it is changing that quality of life for many people here, especially those that are on fixed incomes. Maybe they're looking at retiring and now their property taxes have gone up, or that community vibe that they've had in their area is changing because the demographics are changing. So that's something to keep in mind. Another one that I wanted to talk about is outdoor lifestyle. So a major draw for this region in North Idaho is because it has a wealth of a lot of lakes. We got lakes, mountains, forests. Activities here include boating, fishing, hiking, skiing, snowmobiling, hunting, mountain biking. There are all kinds of different things that you can do here. If you love the outdoor life, then this has a lot of opportunity for you. And that is a big draw here. People love to get out and do some paddle boarding or kayaking on the lake, or go out and boating, surfing, water skiing, fishing, all those things that we can do in the summer. Ice fishing in the winter. Lots of hunting up in this area. Common wildlife that you're going to encounter here is deer, moose, elk, maybe even bears, depending on where you're at, because that's part of what's here. We have a little bit of everything when it comes to that wildlife. There are wolves, there are cougars, there's everything here that you would expect to find in the forest. And so those are things that you need to be prepared for, because that's part of the lifestyle here. And we're kind of in their territory. But just know, if outdoor life is something that maybe you're not interested in, then you might feel like you're not getting the full value of this area. But it is very beautiful wherever you go. So if all you do is get out and road trip around and see some of the beauty, I think you're going to be very surprised with this area, because it has a lot of that. But outdoor life has been a big one here. Another one I was thinking about is pace of life. The pace is generally slower here and more laid back than what you're going to find in these bigger cities or even a lot of these urban areas. That can be a real pro for those seeking more of that peaceful rural lifestyle. But those that love the city busy life and like that fast-paced environment, it may feel like you're being held back a little bit. And so, I have heard that complaint, that everybody's taking their time, nobody's in a hurry. And so that is kind of a common denominator, especially in these smaller towns. It is a much more laid back way of life that people have grown accustomed to, and many people love, and that is also one of the things that attract a lot of people. Next one, proximity to essentials. Access to amenities just really varies depending on the specific location. Larger cities like the Coeur and Sandpoint offer more shops, restaurants, medical facilities, some of those types. The smaller, more rural areas require driving to these bigger areas for some of these essentials, or over into the Spokane area, which is a major hub which is really just about 20-30 minutes out of that Coeur d'Alene area. But if you're up in some of these smaller towns, or Sandpoint, Bonner's Ferry, some of these are farther up, that drive can be further to some of these essentials that maybe you have, whether it's medical or whether it's a certain type of shopping, or maybe you're looking for that certain type of entertainment or nightlife. And so just keep that in mind. A lot of these smaller towns will not offer a lot of that stuff. And so there could be some travel, or, if you're looking to be entertained consistently, then you might rethink this area. So something to keep in mind. Another big one I want to talk about is the income versus housing match. Housing costs, especially in these popular areas like Coeur and Sandpoint, can be higher. Hayden, there's a lot of these communities where the price points have gone up, and these median house sales price have continued to rise, and they are in many cases higher than the national average. In fact, a lot of these median home prices in places like I'm talking Coeur d'Alene and Sandpoint are higher than the Idaho average. And unfortunately, wages are generally lower than in these major metro areas. So, many people are working construction, healthcare, tourism, or for the Forest Service, or working remotely. And the cost of living in North Idaho is generally lower than in states like California and Washington. But just know that those wages here, depending on what you're doing, if you're not working remotely or you're not in some kind of specific training, those wages are going to feel like they are not going to support the type of housing and with the growth that we've seen here, which is very frustrating to a lot of people, especially young people that might be coming into this area thinking, hey, this is a great place to raise a family, but I can't afford to buy a home. I'm having a hard time finding a job. Those types of things you need to think about, and just know that it's real. Housing's expensive here. Cost of living in this area is expensive. And so it can have a big impact on what you're able to do as, depending on where you're at financially. So keep that in mind. The last one I was kind of thinking about real quick was kind of noise versus the quiet preference. And most of North Idaho is kind of quiet, peaceful environment. It's not like these rural areas where you got the downtown buzz, and, certainly we're nothing like the Vegas or these bigger cities, but, you're going to find a lot of solitude, a lot of natural quiet, but with maybe some noise from wildlife. On a quiet evening, you can hear the wildlife out there, and whether it's the coyotes or the crickets or whatever it might be, depending on where you're at. But anyway, noise versus quiet. If you're looking for that quiet, natural solitude, then this might be a great fit. If you love the buzz and the excitement of the big city, just know that you're probably not going to find that here. So anyway, just that kind of wraps up. I had some thoughts about that today, about what it's going to take to thrive here in the North Idaho area. Remember, me and my team, we're here. We're happy to help. Reach out. Feel free to call or text. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button and the bell so you're notified every time we talk about anything going on here in the North Idaho area. Love to make your Idaho a smooth transition. All our contact information is in the comments below. Be sure and reach out if you have any interest in our relocation guide, seller's guide, or buyer's guide. Would love to share any of that information. Feel free to send us an email or shoot us a text, and we'd be happy to get that information out to you.